As a country, Canada is well known for its natural beauty. The vast stretches of untouched wilderness from the Arctic tundra to the Pacific coastal rainforest are one of a kind. Canada's nearly 40 national parks are a testament to this. If you've lived in or even visited the country, you might be familiar with Banff or Jasper, but there's all sorts of other protected areas throughout the country. The Alberta Rockies in particular are very well protected by the federal government and are often considered to be Canada's greatest natural attraction. But in reality, you don't even have to leave Alberta to find what might be the most underrated flavor of Canadian natural beauty. You simply have to head east and south. And if you do want to see it, make sure to get there quickly, because it's disappearing more and more every single year. Today, we're going to be taking a trip down to the Canadian native prairies.
Hello everybody, we are here in Wildhorse, Alberta, down in the prairies, and well, the one reason I like the Canadian native prairies is because they're all about extremes, and no place illustrates that better than Wildhorse. Right now, behind me over here, you are looking at the town of Wildhorse. That's the entire thing. It's the biggest town in an 100-mile radius. And over there, you are looking at the U.S.-Canada Border Patrol Station. In fact, this grassy field just to my right is in Montana, as is everything to the south of me here. Wildhorse it's on the border. It basically exists entirely to mediate the border between Canada and the U.S., and it's surrounded by some fantastic birding that we're going to check out.
Alberta's native shortgrass prairie is full of unique wildlife. Many of the prairie's residents have been living there for thousands and thousands of years and are adapted to all the unique challenges the area brings. For example, most songbirds perch on trees to sing because it gives them more volume and allows their songs to carry. But in the prairies, where there traditionally are not any trees, many songbirds have adapted a whirling flight display where they sing in midair. These lark buntings will occasionally do the same, although they also like sagebrush and will perch on the top of these little bushes to give their distinctive song.
Here we are, beautiful, beautiful prairie habitat right at sunset. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Golden hour for me and the prairies. It just looks so darn beautiful. And yeah, we've got some beautiful shortgrass prairie. You can see the grasses there, interspersed with a little bit of sage as well. You can kind of see the sage. That's sort of the taller, bushier plants. And I mean, I'll tell you what, especially like at twilight, dawn or dusk, you know, coming to the prairies and just watching the birds flitter around early June or late May, listening to things sing first thing in the morning at dawn is absolutely phenomenal. And so I really do think this is one of the funnest places to bird, a nice prairie morning or evening in the summertime. And you just get so many things that you're never going to see anywhere else. It's an incredibly unique landscape, super, super cool. And there are so many reasons why it's just unlike anything else in the entire country.
Even the plant life is pretty interesting, which is saying a lot coming from me, an avid animal enjoyer. But the native plants you can find in the prairies bring about a vibe that you'd never expect for one of Canada's coldest provinces.
If you thought cacti couldn't survive the long Alberta winter, you were wrong, evidenced by these prickly pears, which are actually quite common. And if you come at the right time of the year, you can see them bearing some nice flowers and fruit. One of the nice little gems of the prairies. It's cool to see cacti here. The plant diversity is really quite interesting and something that you don't get anywhere else in the province. So always cool to see these little prickly pears thriving in the native prairie.
Everything in the prairies is specialized and evolved exactly for this unique environment. For example, instead of climbing up in trees or hiding in little holes in the trees like rodents of the forest, Richardson's ground squirrels burrow complex layers in the ground that they can use to hide from predators. These predators, like the prairie falcon or the ferruginous hawk, specialize in squirrels in these regions and rely on them heavily for food. The pronghorn, one of North America's most unique mammals, is one of the fastest running animals on the planet. Most of North America was naturally blanketed by forest a long time ago, so there are very few species that evolved the ability to run quickly in a straight line. because it doesn't provide as much of an adaptive benefit when you're surrounded by trees. The predators that these pronghorn once ran away from, like the ancient North American cheetah, are now extinct. Unfortunately, the prairies have changed quite a bit since the colonization of Canada and the United States by European imperialists. If you're a grass or plant expert, you might be able to notice the odd invasive species in some of these shots of what I'm calling native prairie. Although what we have now is beautiful and supports a great deal of unique wildlife, it's not the same as it once was.
One of the most important causes of the decline of native prairie habitat is agriculture. Obviously, there are a lot of people on the earth that need a lot of food, and of course food is not the only reason that people grow crops, but you can see this field behind me probably 300-400 years ago was a nice prairie grassy field with lots of long spurs and sparrows in it, and although some species can make themselves at home in these agriculture fields, depending on the crop and things like this, it definitely does fragment and affect the habitat quite heavily. And so this is a really big deal and one of the main reasons that native prairie habitat is declining, especially in Canada.
A lot of native prairie that isn't replaced with farm fields is used as rangeland for cattle. Supporting native plant life and non-native livestock in the same area is a delicate balance, and these areas can sometimes be subject to overgrazing. It doesn't take much for members of this highly specialized ecosystem to be thrown off balance, and that's what's at risk of happening now.
Humans have altered these prairie landscapes in many other ways. It's very windy in southern Alberta and Saskatchewan, and as a result, people typically will plant trees and hedgerows to keep their fields from getting completely blown over with wind. However, what this has done is it's manipulated the ecosystem by allowing tree nesting predators, such as great horned owls, red-tailed hawks, and others, to become more common in these areas. The increase of these predators messes with the balance that has been crafted over hundreds of years and has resulted in the decline of many species, notably greater sage grouse, in the area.
You probably have noticed that the entire area I'm filming here is blanketed by a canvas of roads. While the roads allow birders like me to visit the prairies, and some animals do benefit from the presence of linear features on the landscape, roads pose a source of fragmentation, particularly for smaller terrestrial animals. But despite all this change that humans are bringing directly on the prairie ecosystem, the large-scale global change happening around us may be even more problematic.
Everyone knows that climate change is a big deal, and obviously this is affecting the prairies. Of course, any slight change in the ecosystem will massively throw things off balance, as I discussed earlier. So, if the warmer weather, warmer winters, changes in precipitation facilitates the colonization of a new species in the area, this could throw everything completely off. And this has been happening all over the place in all sorts of different environments.
The future of the prairies is a bit uncertain. In Canada, there isn't a lot of protected prairie, although shout out to Grasslands National Park in nearby Saskatchewan. There are so many factors acting on this beautiful and delicate habitat, and we probably aren't doing enough to keep it around. Native prairie still remains in southern Canada, and there are a lot of good pockets where you can go and see it. It truly is one of the most underrated natural spectacles, and I highly recommend going and visiting some of these areas if you live nearby. Whether it's a nice sunset in a late August afternoon or an early May morning with the birds singing, there truly is nothing else like it.